right, good evening and welcome. We're going to call to order our budget workshop meeting for tonight for the Township of Hamilton, April 25th, 2022, 6 p.m. This meeting is being held with the benefit of public notice as required by the Open Public Meetings Act. Madam Clerk, please call roll.
Mr. Caravelli?
Here.
Mr. Reparo?
Here.
Mr. Whalen?
Here.
Ms. Phillips?
Here.
For the record, Mr. Ty is absent this evening.
Okay. Please stand for our salute to our flag and remain standing for our invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May we please bow our heads? Dear Lord, please watch over this council body. Make us make decisions that are grounded in morals and values. Let us pray for our law enforcement officials, our first responders, who do their best to protect us in trying times. Thank you for all that you do for us, dear Lord. We ask these prayers in your name, as always. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Council. We're going to be beginning the evening with a review of the police department budget. Chief, would you like to come to your seat, please? Ready? Welcome, Chief. Do you have any kind of openings? Did you want to?
I do. I just want to thank the council for all your years of support for the police division, for the men and women, and providing us the equipment that we need to serve the residents of Hamilton Township. As you know, it's been a very difficult couple of years with COVID, and without the support of council giving us the equipment we need to ensure the safety of the residents, it would be a very difficult job as it is. So again, I want to thank the council for your support. I also want to thank the council for giving us this opportunity tonight to discuss the budget for the police division. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, well, we'll start in order. I have, my first packet is the public safety functions. The thicker. I know, those of you guys on the iPad. Yeah.
Public safety, police vehicles.
Yep, I'm good.
Safety function, police vehicles.
Police vehicles.
All right.
Vehicles, okay, I see, I have, it. Okay. Did you want to speak on any of these items, or just,
I do. You want to go through the police vehicles first?
I guess we'll do.
Okay, the budget stands as is in the operating portion of the police vehicles. I did have a question on the capital portion for the police vehicles under the capital.
I just have that too.
It's on page 2, under vehicles. I know that we budgeted for 14 this year for police vehicles. We were, in the capital here, down to 7. Based upon current needs of the division and the age of the division fleet and the number of hours the vehicles have, especially after COVID, we predominantly were riding single-man units throughout that 2.5 year period, which really put a lot of more miles on the vehicles. The fleet is getting extremely old. I know we ordered vehicles in 2021. We don't expect to see those vehicles delivered till September at the earliest. October, November, them being on the road once they get outfitted. We're currently down. We have several vehicles that are over 100,000 miles. A vast majority of these vehicles are Crown Vics that we still have. This particular 10, I'd like to request that we move that from 7 to 3. To give us that ability to get rid of some of these older vehicles. Maintenance cost goes up as the vehicles age. Currently, within a vehicle that's 2 years old, it's about $2,500 a year for maintenance. 4 years and older, the costs go anywhere from $3,500 to $4,000 a year for maintenance. I do have several. Right now, I have Crown Vics. The oldest one is a 2003 up to 2011. There are 9 of those vehicles. They are mostly side job vehicles. Those side job vehicles that we have 12 of those. Average 116,000 miles on them. Again, they take a lot of maintenance because they idle the entire time they're on these side jobs. Then our educational service SROs, there are 6 of those vehicles. On average, 123,000 miles on those vehicles. Then I have an additional number of vehicles in patrol that are at that 12 mark. There are 12 that are also at 100,000. On average, between patrol and anti-crime, 3,500 miles a month are placed on these vehicles. So as the vehicles age, the maintenance fees go up on those vehicles as well. I don't expect to see, right now, it's a 180-day turnaround. If I were to order cars today, we wouldn't see them for 180 days. I don't even have at this point from Ford, a date where they're going to start manufacturing the cars we ordered in October of 2021. So it's part of this whole issue with supply chain, parts, getting the lines up, computer chips. Even then, there are so many people right now, we use Winter Ford to retrofit the cars. There's a line of agencies waiting to get in. It's going to be first come, first served. So I don't even know if it's going to take more than a month to outfit cars. It may take up to 2 months. There's a large delay in getting these cars outfitted. So I'd like to, if we could, move that to 10 and start removing some of the older fleet and downgrading it and then going it out to auction. Now, we take these vehicles from patrol. Before they do go to the hill for auction, they're averaging 123,000 miles on them. And the frontline vehicles really need to be replaced more often than they are. The educational services one, they can get more miles on, the side job cars as well, but the traffic, anti-crime patrol are the primary issues. I'd like to see if we can move that from a 7 to 3. You take questions now? Is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead, Councilman.
Chief, I'm just trying to refresh my memory. The call, because it's funny, but it's not funny. What's the most recent cars that you've received? The last time we ordered cars, we received them, they were in 2021, but they were ordered in 2020. Then we received. The last cars that we received were ones that were ordered almost 2 years ago. Approximately, yes. So we're looking at almost being 18 months behind. Right, but again, Councilman, that's part of the problem is the supply chain. We never had to wait 180 days to get cars from time of order. It's just an issue that trying to get these cars. Yeah, I remember when we spoke about this last year, we were saying how far behind it was. We were at one point in 2018. I think they only ordered 2. We didn't see those cars till 2019. Then the mayor and the council was able to approve additional vehicles in the 2020-21 calendar year, 5 and then 7. We saw the 5 into mid-2021, and then some of the other cars at the end of 2021. So they just come in piecemeal.
Chief, just a couple of follow-up questions. So typically, right around like 120 miles, that's like the max that you want to see on these vehicles before that you send them off to auction?
Before they go to auction, 125, but I would tell you on average, when you talk to fleet maintenance people, 75,000 to 80,000 miles should be the top number for a frontline vehicle.
Okay.
When they go to auction, right now the Crown Vics, they don't produce them anymore. There's no parts for them. Obviously, trying to get parts is very difficult. At that point, and when they get to 123,000, we take our patrol fleet and they get downgraded to services unit, educational unit, and then down to side jobs. So they do get downgraded over a period of time.
What do we typically get in our auction vehicle?
I couldn't tell you, I'm not sure.
Okay.
I will tell you that probably today, used cars are probably 40% more than they were prior to COVID.
Sure.
Chief, you had requested 7, you'd like to increase it to 10, but you said take 3 from where?
Yes, we were.
No,
Yeah.
he asked for 14, it was cut to 7.
7.
And he's saying, can you decrease the cut by 3? And go to 10.
Oh, okay, all right.
Okay.
So instead of 14,
Yeah,
you'd like-
Will and I were on the same page.
It's fuzzy math.
just looking through it.
And Chief, so since I've been on council, we fluctuated with the number of car vehicles. Is there any way we can eventually get a more consistent number just so we can, I mean, we go out, this is a capital expense, so it's
a tough ask.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll come to your defense on this one.
okay.
With the growing population, the census just came out, we're up to 92,000, right? So we're up there, we're up with development and construction. The town is building up.
And with COVID,
Increase
COVID was,
for calls, how many calls did you have last year? We had 72,000 calls for service last year, which was up.
Calls aren't stopping, you got the new Amazon facility coming.
Well, in COVID, if there are only one person in the vehicle too, that shifts things a little
The
bit
new
too.
Amazon facility gonna be down off Lake,
Yeah,
and it's gonna
yeah.
increase the amount of calls also. So
Okay. Okay.
It's tough.
Councilor, I think part of the issue is that we got a little behind in one calendar year, and then we're trying to catch up. I think we get to a point where we would do 10 per year should suffice, but again, not anticipating COVID, and each car going out in a single-person vehicle really up the miles on all of these vehicles, the entire fleet.
What's the
Okay.
I was just gonna say, when should we receive these vehicles, that we're considering tonight? This is gonna be it's gotta be a 2023, I'm assuming, it's gotta be
Yeah,
sometime.
I would tell you, Councilman, best of my knowledge, if I'm lucky to see the ones in 2021, late September, and that means at the dealer, and then get retrofit another 2 weeks per vehicle, we probably won't see them until November. If I order these today, if the council approves it, and we order them once it's approved, 108 days minimum. And then they're all backlogged now. They're backlogged from 2021, so it may be longer.
Excuse me, Chief, I didn't mean to interrupt you by any means, but once you get these budgeted, are them prices fixed? So I'm looking at like 180,000 more in the budget, right? About $60,000 a vehicle. Are they fixed?
State contract.
Right.
So right now, the cost is fixed right now. That doesn't mean that it may go up. Now, we had a van on order. They cut that order because Ford stopped making at a certain time production. But imagine that van's going to be more expensive this year when we do order in 2022 because the new state contract prices haven't been set yet.
And then we got to outfit them.
Yes.
What's the average cost on outfitting each vehicle?
It's all included in the cost of the
Cost,
vehicle.
right.
The vehicle and all the outfitting is in the cost.
Oh, okay.
So on average, roughly 59,000 from soup to nuts, everything, vehicle and all the equipment outfitting it.
Thank you.
Okay.
And that's really your only large capital, right? It was the vehicles.
The vehicles, yep.
Yeah.
The other issue in the capital for vehicles, we had an F-150 responder type pickup truck in the budget. I'd like to move that, just so council knows, to take that and go with the tactical vehicle. That vehicle's on the road more than that pickup truck would be on the road. That was for the traffic unit. That vehicle's got more miles than it needs to be, and that would then get downgraded as well to other units. So I just want to switch the cost. It's the same cost, just that it would be a tactical vehicle rather than the F-150 pickup, which we'd love to have. There are several items we have to transport, especially found property and evidence. Just can't get them in the cars. Bicycles and things of that sort. That's what was going to be used for transporting property and evidence that's found or recovered at a crime scene, as well as for the traffic unit when they have to move barricades and they have incidents or a fatal crash and they need barricades. But I'd like to move that money. It's just going to be a change in what the vehicle's going to be, but no change in cost. That's all I had on vehicles.
Chief, I'm jumping back to maintenance of other equipment under police vehicles, under operating. This is item number 1, page 1. Why is sometimes in 2017 it zeroed out, in 2020 it zeroed out, but in a couple of years we obviously had an expense there. We didn't spend anything in 2021. Is that account, John, or Kathy, what's the reasoning for that?
We just didn't, it looks like we didn't budget anything in 2020.
We budgeted 22,000 in 2021, but we didn't spend anything in it.
We spent nothing, there's no charges against it. I'm not sure why.
I think some of that was included in the capital cost with the retrofitting when we purchased the vehicles under capital. That was all included with the capital.
Awesome.
Now, there are older vehicles that are not going to be purchased with the retrofitting that we have to repair older vehicles, lights and siren boxes, cages and things of that sort.
Okay.
Or when we do strip them out, they're not new vehicles, they're going to the hill.
Okay.
Or they're going to get downgraded to a side job car.
Okay. So certain years we're doing that, I guess, and making
Yes.
those improvements. Okay.
Then we switched to actually putting that within the capital for each vehicle, retrofitting and outfitting the vehicle.
Okay.
Have any other questions?
Any other question on other than that section?
Not on that section.
Okay,
Cool. Pat?
all right. All right, we can move on to public safety police department.
How, Chief, how are you with, your police force now? How many, members right now and
We're
what is
at
it?
full strength, 171.
And give me an idea on personnel, any movement to, promotions and,
I do have several retirements coming up.
okay,
We're probably going to face up to 6 this year. We did hire 4 in February this year, so we're going to be up to 10, with additional retirements anticipated in 2023. So there will be some promotions coming up. I do have a lieutenant retiring in June 30th, July 1st, so there will be a lieutenant, a sergeant's promotion coming up, and then obviously those 2 promotions would open up entry level for the academy September 7th, which would start the 2022.
We're at full staff right now, right?
We are full staff
Okay.
right now.
Chief, how are we doing with the crossing guards? Are we fully staffed with that? I can see that.
We're getting much better. As a matter of fact, I just put in a employee action form to bring on another crossing guard, so we're probably too short of where we should be with some substitutes, but we're doing much better. Hopefully, next school year, we will be at full strength with our crossing guards.
So with the 520, that would be fully
Yep.
staffed.
no. What about, Chief, folks that are out of title pay, onto that line item?
There's some contractual, when a sergeant fills in, they do get out of title within a certain period of time. There is shift differential for our dispatchers, also not for the officers, but there is out of title for that.
And obviously, that would depend upon the year that you're
Correct.
dealing with, yeah, who's, and what title. It's a big number.
Seems like a lot of the increases maybe in like, the maintenance, computer maintenance and that is related to the body camera footage and storage and
Correct.
so forth.
We were directed by the AG's directive to add body-worn cameras for the division based upon the directive, which increased those costs for maintenance and storage.
Yeah, so they take some of that money and it goes over to the additional, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I see maintenance of other equipment basically doubled almost, yeah. And that's, again, that's related to the, the in-car video camera.
Yes, that was a $60,000 plus addition just for that, for the body-worn cameras.
Chief, how much is the grant that we get for the?
Yeah, so,
That's the same question.
yeah, you beat me
How
to
much
it.
is the grant for the body armor?
The original grant was going to be 134. The AG has said that because we didn't buy the 66 cameras, because we didn't need them, before the directive came out for the Attorney General's office, the new directive, which would tell us who was supposed to have body-worn cameras, the assumption was every sworn member would have to have one. That wasn't the fact when the AG directive came out, but the grant was published before the new directive came out, so we had to apply, not knowing what the number would be. We don't need 66 currently. However, there is some discussion that the AG may go back and redo the body-worn camera directive and add additional people that have to have them. Right now, it's all sworn personnel, reserve officers, shift commanders, traffic, anti-crime have to have body-worn cameras. The 17 covers, we do have spares. If I buy 66, we have to pay for those 66 and all the airtime storage, even if they never get used. you're paying for this storage, it's unlimited per camera. So you end up paying for the storage. If the AG does change this, he took that 134, and their calculation was $2,200 per camera times 17, roughly $35,000. Even though this division has had body-worn cameras since 2016, and the residents in the township has been paying that fee from that time forward. So we got shorted on that grant money. If we do have to increase the number of cameras, we may get some more of that grant money. But again, it does not cover these 5-year contracts for these body-worn cameras. The hardware is relatively inexpensive. It's the storage time, the data that you store in the cloud. That's where the cost comes in.
I think maybe I misspoke. My question was about the body armor.
Oh, body armor. They said body-worn cameras.
Maybe I did, I don't know.
I thought you said.
My microphone doesn't seem to want to.
Yeah, let him know.
Yeah. I said body armor, right? Yeah, the body armor, grant, do we get that every year,
We
right?
still get that. It's federal and state.
Okay.
The feds will give us X number of dollars. We have to purchase it first and prove that we purchased it with serial numbers, and then the feds will then reimburse. The state, it's odd. They don't give us half the cost of the body armor. So if the body armor is $800, the feds will give you $400. The state kind of calculates how much they're going to give you based upon the number of vests you get. So that money has actually gone down. So it's not 100% covered.
Gotcha.
Am I correct in that?
Yeah,
sir?
yeah. We've gotten probably from the state under $10,000 now, and it goes rather quickly, it gets spent rather quickly, so.
Yeah. It's a 5-year replacement period for the vests, and that's mostly by manufacturer, requires a 5-year replacement. We're not getting the money from the state to offset the 100% cost of those new vests.
Just to be clear, are you looking at clothing and uniforms?
No, I was asking just for small.
yeah.
I didn't see the body armor.
The history of it, we spent a lot more on vests,
I didn't see body
obviously
armor
for
here.
good reasons,
Oh, I see.
and then we received in the grant, but
So it's stitched in the webbing
Right,
and it pulls apart. So that's why there's a shelf life.
pulls apart from usage.
Yeah, it's gravity.
It's, yeah,
usage.
usage, wear, sunlight exposure, it's
Well, that's
Kevlar
why we want
fibers.
to have openings in the wall.
Right.
yeah. It's perfect.
Come up with better
I-
material.
Well, just going back to clothing and uniforms, I noticed that went, again, almost doubled. Is that due to new hires? Is that,
The uniform, it's roughly $4,000 to outfit a brand-new officer. That doesn't include weapons system and magazines. That's just the equipment they need and uniforms to go on the street. So you're up to $5,000 with a weapons system and the magazines. Obviously, we have a large retirement in 1 year. We'd like to replace to get to that township ordinance of 171 full strength for the division. Some of it's contractual here. In the new contract, all new officers, when their body armor is replaced, all officers get an outer carrier in that contractual agreement. Before, it was only a certain officers at a certain time when they were hired. Now they all get it. So we have to budget that extra money to outfit the officers with that outer carrier.
And that was probably the whole increase in that line item, otherwise it's pretty well stable.
yeah. And I assume that's also connected again to the personnel expenses and training? The increase
I
there?
don't know.
Just again, if you're gonna have new hires, you're gonna have more, you're anticipating new hires, you're gonna need to have them trained and,
Yeah, again, a lot of that, the AG directs a lot of training for the officers today. A lot of that is not paid for by the state. It's state mandated, but not state funded. And it's all mandatory. It has to be done. It gets to an issue where some of that training is, you have to send people to be instructors, you have to pay for the instructors to be trained. They come back, train the trainers, then the entire division has to be trained.
okay.
If I could just go back to one item here on the computer maintenance.
Yes.
I know we requested 40 in that, and that's computer maintenance services and various computer consulting services. I'm currently at around $7,000 out of the budget for that, and another $20,000, there's a rec pending to migrate us into this new email address, hamiltonpdnj.gov, which is much more secure than a .com or .org. It's going to cost $20,000 for that migration to get us into that. That consulting fee, we really need to take a look at that to keep us safe from malware, phishing, ransomware, cybersecurity threats. We use an outside vendor for that, for our IT support and our network services. That's on page 5. At the very top, you'll see various computer consulting services.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
I'm afraid that we might run out of that, because as of now, with this next rec I have pending, we will be at a negative balance on that for consulting.
So right now you're budgeted at 20.
Correct.
So you're saying you already went through 7?
I went through 7. We have a blanket order for our IT support. I do have a rec for another 20, so we are going to be in the red before we even know it. And it's imperative. If the township ever went out, we've looked at outside IT vendors, and they want to do everything, not just one part. And I think the cost would be cost prohibitive.
Yeah. Mhm. Yep.
Okay.
If we are 2 different various IT supports, why isn't that something that we could do in-house with the new email system?
It has to do with the servers, the networking. I don't know if we have anybody can do all that. We have the body worn cameras, which are separate, car computers, which are separate, the servers, the networks, the email.
Right?
We've looked at actually going to an outside vendor.
Email.
What's that?
Who supports the current email?
Well, there's no one that supports it other than our IT, but to migrate to this new .gov, that's the issue, is doing the migration. And it's beyond the technical abilities of the people that are currently in the IT unit. They have done some of this work already, but some of it's not going to be able for them to do.
Well, I can. Hey, Chief, is it possible to pull something from clothing and uniforms or something like that to balance some of that increase? Because if you have a pending bill, I don't want you to be short in that line item, but I'm trying not to add to the, I'm also trying to be responsible here and.
Well, there's a couple issues. We've hired 4 in February. We're going to probably hire 6 more in September of 2022. That's 10. I'm budgeted for less than that. It's $4,000 per officer to outfit, just without the weapon system. We're already over at that point.
You're at 26% roughly.
And then I did hire an officer from another agency, which was 21, because of an outside, he attended a residency academy, so it was a little bit more expensive to bring him on board. So we're already over budgeted on that item. If we were to pull money from there, we're going to be short.
On that professional consultant line item, where administration took out the 20,000, I mean, looking at what's been spent over the last 5 years, I mean, the highest was 54,000. So, I mean, and we have over 75,000 budget in there. I would think that that would give you that little bit of cushion that you need for the 20,000. So, because in the descriptions, the things that have increased this line item don't really add up to, that 20,000. So I don't know, I think, and again, if we run into a problem towards the end of the year and we see this line item short, we could always, John will do his magic for transfers, but I just don't see, with the spending having been low enough, last year we had budgeted over 90,000 and you spent 50,000 of it, so you might have enough wiggle room in that line.
I will tell you, I do have a pending rec for $20,000 to do this migration, and I've already spent $7,000 from the blanket order for consulting through Oceans Group. It's the same group that the township uses, the IT department here uses. So I'm just afraid we're going to be short on that. And we've used other capital that we've had surplus, IT capital, to offset some of the costs in the future. But I think our capital right now, we pretty much are down to the very bottom in our capital, even though we've taken other IT money and moved it around. So we've spent it appropriately.
Yep.
I mean, Kathy, we can go back and take a look at that, but I know I do have a rec sitting and pending to do this migration. And again, most of these cyber threats and malware and ransomware come from emails, people logging on, and then it happens. And then there have been several incidents throughout, not just Mercer County, but elsewhere, where they've lost complete systems.
Madam President, where are we at?
Well, I was just thinking, I was looking at the telecommunication charges with Cablevision.
Mhm.
What exactly are we using Cablevision for?
So, keep up with current
I
media.
cut the cord 3 years ago.
I get that, but a lot of the events current events that occur, to keep us up to speed on what's going on, when there's especially civil unrest, the media gets it. I don't think it's all that high. Not,
Well, went up about $20,000 from what you spent last year.
From what you spent, right?
Yeah.
which,
Yeah, the appropriations is still-
Different than what was budgeted.
I'm sorry, what page are you on, and what
I'm
item?
sorry, page 10. But that's including, and that's what I was asking, is it's more than just cable, obviously, it's the cellular, it's,
Yeah.
but that's a package, I guess, I think that includes everything.
Yeah.
It's also Verizon connectivity is in that, cellular
Right.
communications is in that.
Well, that's why I was
I do it all the
actually
time.
Cablevision. I haven't heard Cablevision at one time.
Yeah,
They're the
yes.
smallest part of that line item, yeah.
Trying.
Oh, I got it, all right, I got it here.
All right. Does it have anything else on this section?
No.
Okay. All right, we'll move forward with the OEM budget. Yeah.
Chief, the one category, other professional consultant.
Just look at that.
What's OEM damage cleanup? Just, I think I have an idea, but I just wanted to. That looks like the biggest number out of that.
Right, when there's an incident, there's a spill, and
Spill,
there's
something like that.
we have to remove that debris someplace safe, and it's organized by the state and approved to dispose of that stuff, and then eventually that gets moved out.
Yeah, so the budget announced even under what last year?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
Yes.
By 5 grand.
Yeah, that's right. Or by 1,000. Yeah.
Everything else is consistent.
Right.
Lower than prior years.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. I didn't have any other questions on that portion.
All right, we'll move on to 911 dispatch.
I had one question, Matt, under the OEM budget.
Oh, sorry.
that we may have to take another look at. And that is on page 5 of the OEM budget, under physical exams. There are roughly $400 for the exam, the fit testing that's required to be done. There are 16 members, so at 416, that's 6,400. We may be short on that account also for those physical exams, and they are required.
Who does the
Yeah.
physicals?
I'm sorry?
Who does those physicals?
Capital Health, I'm sorry,
Robert Wood?
Robert Wood.
So they charge us in addition to what we pay them for op health, they charge us in addition?
Yeah, yep, when we send people there for corporate health for physicals, they charge, yep. Yep, the fit testing, as far as the mask and whatnot, we do that in-house, but the physical exams are done by corporate health.
They're just so that they can determine whether they can wear.
Yeah, that they're fit respiratory-wise, they can wear a mask and APR. We do the fit testing for that, to make sure it seals properly. But all the other things that the physicals are done through the hospital.
It costs us $6,400.
Again, that's an easy amount to find if we need it. I mean, I don't want to keep doing that for a whole every line item, but they have other line items, even if they cover it, that would necessarily everything.
Mm-hmm.
So Helen's been finished now. That's it. Okay. All right, so we'll go back to the dispatch.
Kathy, just a general question. If let's say, we were in the safety category and then we're in the OEM category, you could still transfer those monies at the end of the year from a division of the police department. Like, you're not, okay.
You would be able to approve that during budget transfers.
Okay, what comes before us, right?
Keep the control line item, if it needed more budget.
Budget.
That, and it has to come from a different department, so to speak. Then, that's what you approve in November.
Okay.
Anything?
Not really.
Nothing jumps out, no.
Nothing jumps out at me.
It's a good thing.
We basically already looked at your capital, right? Just the vehicles, right?
Just,
Yeah. Any last comments or questions?
Chief, so just so I understand this correctly, under the capital, on the one page, page 7, the F-150 is now going to be a tactical vehicle.
Yeah.
And the Ford Expedition type vehicle, that's still a separate line item. That's that 52,000 there. That's in capital, roughly 53,000.
Yeah, I'm just changing the name. It's going to be an SUV, a Ford Expedition,
Okay.
instead of the F-150 pickup truck.
And do we already have these vehicles, or is this a
No.
replacement?
Their replacement,
The replacements?
They're replacements.
Yes, correct. Okay,
We're just changing the name out.
that's fine.
that's all.
I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Price is still the same.
Probably more expensive. Probably more expensive.
How about selling the used ones?
Yeah, that works out. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Chief, for coming in and all the clarifications you made.
Great, thank you. If you have any other questions, please give me a call. Be more than happy to provide you any information you need, to finalize the budget for the township. Again, I want to thank you on behalf of the entire division for your support in getting us what we need to provide safety and security for the residents of this great town. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, you too.
Thanks so much.
Okay, moving forward in the agenda, we'll be looking at the fire department budget.
They gonna bring up.
As you can tell, I brought backup tonight.
Huh?
Right?
Welcome, Chief Kramer. Thanks for
Good
having
evening.
us tonight.
How are you?
Oh, my microphone's not back. Okay. All right. One big packet?
Just, that's it.
One big
One big packet. Do you want to start with capital, or do you want to start with the?
So if I could just address the council for a couple items, just to provide a little bit of an overview of the division. First of all, thank you for having us this evening. I brought along with me Deputy Chief Tazi in the back. I have Battalion Chief Mather and Fire Marshal Scott McCormick, and then the two ladies that assist me in the office, just because they're better organized than I am sometimes, and if I have a question, they'll know right where to look. So good evening.
Chief, anybody knows you knows that's not true. There's nobody more organized than me. Let's be honest.
Let me call a hallway and yeah, we're having a good day. So it's a little bit of an adjustment, but if I could, I provided a 2021 end of year report like every other department did, every division. But I'd like to recap a few things. In 2021, that was our transition year into the Hamilton Township Fire Division. That did not come without challenges. That's to be an understatement. Last year, we responded to 6,468 calls for service, and the fire prevention conducted over 6,200 fire inspections. That's 6,200. Okay, 72 fire investigations and various community activities throughout the division that we are now funneling or running through the Fire Prevention Bureau. This way, you know, there's cohesiveness, and that message is getting across. Like many divisions, COVID affected the fire division. It changed the way that we approach all of our incidents, manage inspections, fire prevention activities, and quite honestly, budgetarily, it hurt. We had spent quite a bit of money in COVID as a result, because as we transitioned in, we had nearly $200,000 in overtime that generated from that. So we were fortunate enough to work with the administration to overcome that. In our first year with the township, the fire district worked closely with the administration to organize and consolidate all the fire district accounts. Through that hard work, the township has received fire consolidation grant monies, most recently in the excess of $1.85 million, which we've been working very closely, especially with John's office. We can't thank you enough for your assistance on that. We've also reorganized the Fire Prevention Bureau and established the training division to standardize all of our training. In 2021, we experienced 161 structure fires, with several of those being fatal fires, unfortunately. The division also responded to technical rescue incidents, water rescues, extreme weather events, and deployed members of the fire division to New Jersey Task Force 1, which operates as a federal or a FEMA asset. Furthermore, we have found that the current organization that we are functioning under allows us to use our experienced chief officers to enhance the division, to provide a good, solid working platform, and I can't be happy enough with the progress we've made. In 2022, we expect to take a more advanced or involving role in OEM and with Hamilton Hazmat, both of which are primarily police functions, but we've had discussions with the PD, and we believe it's going to be a good partnership between the two divisions. Thus far in 22, the division has responded to over 2,000 calls. So mind you, our call volume, don't compare it to the PD. Everybody tries to draw comparisons with the PD response versus a fire response. Please don't do that. I'll explain that another time. But 2,000 calls in the first quarter, which tells me that we're on a pace that hits somewhere around 8,000 calls. Which puts us well about 800 to 1,000 above where we were in our busiest year in the 4-year average, even with the districts. The Fire Prevention Bureau has investigated numerous fires already, 25 to be exact, and 1,200 inspections. Fire Prevention has also worked with the grant writer from the town, and we were able to secure a FM Global Fire Prevention grant, thanks to Scott and his work, along with Battalion Chief Mather, that will provide 4 iPads for that division or that bureau so we can move forward a little bit. One of the key things when you go through our budget is you're going to see, because of the grant monies, we work closely with the administration to identify items within our budget that we could get covered under the grant funds. So what that translates to, and John, please correct me if I'm wrong, is roughly a 6% reduction in last year's budget. So although there are some areas that, are an adjustment for us, we're working to try and continue to work forward. Now, if I may, and hopefully I'm not taking up too much of your time here, the Fire Prevention Bureau, I just want to touch on some key numbers. Last year, the Fire Prevention Bureau with penalties, life hazard, non-life hazards, brought in about $524,000 in revenue. They conducted 72 fire investigations and 2 juvenile fire center interventions. We also, it lists here only of about 4 or 5 fire prevention activities, but truthfully that number was more in 8 to 10 range by the time you take into account everything. We've advised the administration on what was already appeared to be a reduction in the revenue. That is because of the way that the Division of Fire Safety is reporting things. They're withholding about a 10% net revenue line as a result of COVID. And if I misspeak, Scott, please feel free to.
And also businesses closing.
And businesses closing. So what they wanted to do was not provide a community a false sense of what the revenue is going to be. So the division's reducing that by 10%, which is why you're going to see a reduction in the revenue line. Doesn't mean that we may not get that money. It just means they want it budgetarily to be smart about it. Okay. Our fire prevention does an excellent job, and I can't thank them enough. As far as our training division, where we differ from the police department is our internal training division. We have the ability to run our own Fire One program, whereas the police academy, they only run twice a year. We're able to run an academy within our confines with the state approval at any time. And I could run through all the training that we've accomplished, but I have about 4 pages here that were in the end of year report. So please, if you could please take the time to look that over if you haven't already. It's our captain in fire prevention or in training does an excellent job, and he has truly helped us to standardize our training throughout the division. Call volume from last year, as we talked about. So currently we are at roughly 1,850 calls year to date. That's gone up since we've been sitting here. I think we took in a couple other calls. Our busiest year in the last 5 years, if you're including where we are right now, by all accounts was in 2018, where we averaged over 7,200 calls for service. By the numbers I'm reporting to you already, 1,850 to 2,000, we are well expecting to go over that. Some of the software that we've been able to buy provides a better analytic approach to where we are. And typically, most people will tell you in 2018, we were a 50-50 split. I can tell you right now that we're more like a 64-34, somewhere in that range. We're not an even split. Most of our calls now are fire. They are not medical driven like they used to be. You can see that from, as you referenced in the police, when the police division was up here, that the town's grown. The dynamics and the needs have changed, and they're going to continue to change, so we need to be resilient and meet those. Some of the alarming things, you'll hear a lot of national trends that fires are down. That's not true. It hasn't. It's how that reporting is being portrayed, and sometimes by the way the media portrays those numbers. We have seen a steady increase in the number of fire calls. Now, whether that be structure fires, whether that be mulch fires, regardless, it is a true fire emergency where we're seeing an increase. As of right now, as of today, we had 45 plus fires that we've been sent to. Those are actually coming up, those 45 are coming up as structure-related calls, okay? I'm just going to fast forward here a little bit. So in 2021, as I reported, we responded to 161 reported structure fires. 92 of those were in private dwelling fires. We had 5 fatalities in those fires. We had 38 apartment fires, 1 hotel. We actually did have a fire in a hospital, which we got lucky with. So a lot of times we don't hit the national news, or we don't hit the local newspaper like our counterpart in the city, because we're Hamilton. But rest assured, we do have those emergencies, and we are handling them before they get to that level, like they are doing also. But it's just the way that reporting comes across. I could go on and on with some of these numbers, but what I wanted to leave you with before you ask me any questions were the 22 goals for the division. So goals are to continue to foster the relationships with the community. One of the goals has been to get as much outreach as what we can. We have done what I think is an excellent job with that, but it's still not good enough. So community outreach through civic groups. We've already been invited to a couple of career days with some of the schools. So we are doing everything and anything that we can. And again, that all filters through the Fire Prevention Bureau just for scheduling purposes. Continue to provide exceptional customer service. We're looking to further expand the Fire Prevention Bureau into our juvenile fire sitter program and outreach program. It's a program that we have, but we're just trying to solidify and make it stronger. And what that does is identifies a child that may not truly understand the dangers of their actions when they've come in contact with fire. So we're trying to, again, work with our partners. Continue to evaluate and improve the fire division's infrastructure with our partners in Public Works. I think we've done a good job with that. But I see that there are ways that, because we're still new, that we can enhance that capability right there. Continue to implement the fire division's fleet plan. You have in front of you for tonight is a modest part of that fleet plan. And next year, what I'm hoping is that you lend your support to further enhancements to that, because once you take a true evaluation of where we are, we're much like the police department. The only difference is because of where we came out with the districts, some of our vehicles just look a little bit different, but the maintenance issues are still the same. And then also we want to ensure a smooth transition up command. And what I mean by that, excuse me, is that I am retired. So, sorry, last budget hearing for me. So Chief Tazi will be assuming command. So, sorry.
Thank you, Chief. And congratulations.
Hit me with the tough questions. Let's go.
Now, I appreciate all the thorough explanation for each of the departments, knowing what your goals are for the upcoming year. Personally, I just had a question as far as the budget, or I don't know how you guys track, like what percentage or what cost do we put out? I know we are a large support for our surrounding communities, especially Robbinsville. So I'm just curious if that's something that's going to break down a little bit, the cost that we're putting out for that.
You're lucky I brought the end of year report.
Prepared.
Okay, so mutual aid responses. Typically, and I don't have the total of mutual aid responses, but I can tell you Robbinsville's been a question, and we provided and responded on 244 calls last year. So if I back up to what we responded total calls, just want to put it in perspective. It's easy to take those numbers and they get skewed. So that could be any number of reasons why we would respond. Could be a structure fire, could be a gas leak, it could be just based on their box assignments, the ladder truck may go. So if I may, let me just pull this out here. I'm going to venture to say that out of 3,500 calls, fire-based calls, we responded to 244. So our total, it's not even, it's an apples and oranges type thing. It doesn't even match up. Let me get to a couple other departments that we work close with just to put it in perspective. City of Trenton, we responded 38 times to that. That may also demonstrate a difference in our cover plan. So when the City of Trenton, under the districts what used to happen, or even when we first consolidated prior to some of the shifting in our manpower numbers, we would send a cover company into the City of Trenton when they hit a second, third alarm, something along those lines. We stopped that. We had tried to implement a mutual aid plan with the City of Trenton where when they went to a second alarm, we would forward stage one of our fire engines along with our truck at Station 13 or Station 14. So this way we're covering both municipalities, getting more bang for your buck, so to speak. So we're still doing that. So you may see a call generate for that, but it doesn't necessarily mean that unit responded into the City of Trenton. It just generates that number showing that it's providing a service. Upper Freehold, we've responded 36 times, and Mission and Lawrence, both about 20 times each. Now, there's further breakout within the end-of-year report, so please, if you have any other questions. We don't bring in Robbinsville like we used to, but a lot of it has to do is a lot of our dispatch is based on GPS location. That's what we've gone to. So the CAD recognizes what the closest units are, and that's what it sends. So we try and work around that. Hope that answered your question.
Chief, I just want to thank you for your leadership and shepherding the consolidation efforts, and I know you have people behind you, but I want to just extend to you my congratulations in your retirement. When is your last?
August 1st.
August 1st, okay. And we appreciate everything that you've done and bring us forward to where we are today. Just your thoughts on why the uptick in calls? Do you think it's a question of maybe housing stock or aging, maybe a growth of the population?
Sure, I think that it's a culmination of things. One, we're seeing a change in economic availabilities, right? So when COVID struck, everybody, wasn't working, so maybe we have an increase in reporting, or maybe you had a reduction in salaries. So that meant what you would normally fix or replace, maybe you didn't do that, or maybe you're trying to take a shortcut. What I believe it is for us in part is you're seeing growth. You're seeing a lot of growth, and regardless of, as much as what you go to the schools and you hit the fire prevention, and we do the smoke detector drive, which is again handled through the fire prevention, and we get those from the 6ADC program. At the end of the day, fires happen. And I believe, quick response from using 911 systems. A lot of people also have fire alarm systems now where they never used to, an alarm system. So the ability in which these reports get to us has also improved. Where it used to be, hey, you got smoke coming out the house next door. Yeah. So I think a lot of that is what you're saying, sir.
And you said you think right now we're at like 65% to 35% on fire related and then medical related, right?
Right.
Of a split.
And what you're saying for us in part is a response shift. Under the districts, you had some districts that responded on anything and everything. And it was because they had, were providing a service to their district, which makes sense. What we've done is standardize our EMS response, which has been consistent with what the previous Chiefs Association had in place. ALS criteria, motor vehicle accident, delayed BLS, of course, cardiac arrests, overdoses, those things. Last year, if you were to look at the numbers, you would see a shift or a drop in what our EMS response was. And that's strictly related to COVID, because we have a different medical director than what the police department does, and our medical director had put some other restrictions to make sure that our crew responded on those life threats. So we wouldn't necessarily go for a simple fall victim because the ambulance would take those BLS calls if they were in closer proximity than us. So you're seeing a little bit of a shift in response parameters, which is why, you're seeing also we're freed up for more fire duties.
Okay, that was a good thing.
I don't know, Charlie, want to go? Okay. Chief, I've known you my whole life. For the record, you're older than me, so.
I am.
You're one of the guys,
I'm showing it too.
No, even going back to Little League days, right? You were always one of the guys that all the younger guys looked up to.
Thank you.
I got to know you even better during the consolidation process, myself and Councilman Carabelli. We wouldn't be where we are if you weren't there. And I think, with you announcing that you're leaving, I just thought that publicly you needed to hear that, because you took the reins on a lot of different fields. You were all over the place. When I said earlier, you made a joke about not being, that they were more organized than you. I witnessed it. We all witnessed it firsthand. The department wouldn't be where we are had you not been sitting in the seat you were sitting in, and I think that you should recognize and understand that, because it's appreciated by all of us. We witnessed it, at least two of us in those meetings. We witnessed it, and the people behind you witnessed it as well.
Thank
So first and foremost, thank you for what you did and getting us where we needed to be. As far as the budget, I think we all knew coming into a new department, there was going to be growing pains. The amounts for salaries or vehicles or whatever, we knew that some of those were going to be fluctuating. We had to get to a point where we were going to be. It was a new department starting from ground zero. There were some challenges, and I'm sure there's going to be some more challenges this year as well. I don't really have any questions on the budget. I just wanted to publicly thank you for everything you did for us, for the stuff that you taught me. I appreciate your time. You sat, and I know you spent a lot of personal time on this. Publicly, I wanted to thank you. I wish you well in your retirement. I know you got choked up before, and sorry, but we're going to do it to you again. Thank you for everything you did for us.
Gets worse as I get older. I can't figure it out. I think it's because I haven't known anything else, so.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're going to land on your feet wherever you end up with whatever you decide to do, and you have success there also. So thank you.
Well, I guess since everybody's having their say, I'd just like to say, Chief, the short time I've gotten to know you, I always knew who you were, but I didn't really know to the extent of your position in the township with the fire department, but I've gotten to see some of your firsthand what you do. Leaders lead, and you're a true leader. You've shown that time and time again. Retiring's a tough thing to do. I know it's around the corner for myself. I'm looking forward to it. As you can see, I'm probably a little older than just about everybody in here. And I wish you nothing but the best. Everybody strives to have a fulfilling career, which you've had, and I hope you're not a stranger and tough position to fill. But I'm sure we'll fill it with qualified people.
Absolutely.
Okay. Did you want to talk about anything? I don't need to break this.
Yeah.
No, I'm
Is
here
there
to
anything you
answer any
want to talk
questions you
about with
have.
capital or anything like that?
What I can tell you is just like I reported, there were some capital items from last year that are on order. But again, we're hit with the delays. The good thing is we've been able to get those purchase orders issued, so we're locked into pricing for the fire engine that was approved in 21 capital. And then we have the 2 command vehicles that were approved that are, again, we're at the mercy of Ford. That's the vendor that we're dealing with. Once they release those VINs, hopefully we'll get everything built. To Chief Stevens' point earlier is, I wish I had their delay. Our delay on even a fire truck to be built right now was anywhere from 22 to 24 months. And typically, the ladder truck that you see that we're requesting, it's definitely necessary. We're looking at least that 24 months, if not greater, because typically that truck takes longer to build anyway. So the sooner we can get through those items, I think the better. No, but any questions that you have, please ask.
Chief, with the, this is off the budget topic, but since I have you here, I'll ask, with the ongoing negotiations, and I don't know how much we can talk about this, but the colonial issue, you made some solutions and remedies to help that situation and.
We did. I don't know how much to go into things, but what I can tell you is that we had a meeting with the union, with the township attorney, with a representative from Colonial. We had looked to try and come up with a resolution. I wasn't comfortable, nor was the administration, with some of those conversations, so we chose to act and remove the engine that was assigned to Station 18. That station is still up and running, so please don't say, I've seen a couple Facebook posts, and I don't do Facebook, so just to tell you, it still is a vital function. It's where the Colonial and our station there runs the special service unit, which fills the air cylinders. We also have a couple surplus units that we're going to be sending to Public Works in the next week or two, and we hope to continue that relationship over there. once we were able to better define the space within that building, we would love to reoccupy that building. But I think right now, I think there was, given the incident that occurred, I believe what our decision was the right thing to do. And, you know, when that move happened, it facilitated another change. So that's just the nature of how we respond to make sure we're first making sure we have adequate coverage for everybody.
And without negatively impacting the residents, right, that live generally in that area.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So back when, in consolidation, back when 2017, when I started with this, just to lay a little bit of groundwork to this, and Ms. Gore was great because she provided the links, her office did. The previous council had done an ESRI response map, if you recall.
Yeah, I recall it.
Well, because I don't get rid of anything, I still have access to that. So before we did all this, before even consolidation, we ran different deployment models to try and figure out what the response times would be, given the uncertainty of where some of these buildings were, whether or not they wanted to be part of the Hamilton Fire Division, or they didn't, because let's be honest, it was a culture shock and a culture change for everybody, not just us, the volunteers and the community. So we ran those models, and to answer your question, we are able to provide appropriate coverage to that area. Now, would I love to have another engine still at that location, plus what I already have? Absolutely, just like everybody else. I want more manpower. So if you could make that happen next year for Chief Tazi, that would be fantastic, because the division could really benefit. How'd that do, Chief? There you go. So, but in all seriousness, yeah, we are able to, with where we are, provide a more spread out coverage response without relying on, let's say, Robbinsville coming into the square, because now we have an engine located out there. So we're responding from 6 stations and merging to the inside toward Cooser Road. Like I said, I hope that we can, again, get personnel back in there on a full-time basis. We're just not there right now.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure.
And I appreciate that, you know, on behalf of your members, and, you know, from what we heard that night at the council meeting, that, you know, it was investigated immediately and our guys were taken care of first and
Absolutely.
foremost. So
Yeah, I hope you understand, we had to investigate it the right way. And we couldn't just
Definitely appreciate it.
make a response just based on, without investigating it. And administration's done a great job with that.
Chief, walk me through a little bit with the clothing uniforms. That's, I think, page 7.
Okay.
Is this mostly part of the CBA? I mean,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so what you're saying here is a mix. There were some items that we were able, through rebranding of the department, to move Class A's into some of the grant funds, along with what we've done with some of the Class B's. But there are contractual obligations within the B uniform.
Okay.
Absolutely, even the A, but not to the level with the new division being stood up. You're also saying, you know, the various sets of turnout gear, where there may be some increases just because we're anticipating potential retirements. And then also, we have gotten approval with our volunteer application. So I'm happy to report we're in the process of bringing in our first new volunteer. So again, there's a misconception that we are not. We are truly a combination fire department. We just needed to make sure that the previous way that we brought individuals in was consistent with the way the town does things, and everything's approved, and we're moving forward. The only item that I did see in that section, Councilman, was just the fire gloves that
I just saw
were
that, yeah.
reduced or completely eliminated. That was the only thing that drew my attention of concern in the budget, but I believe that I can find other items within the budget to make it work, so
Okay.
I just, you know, just wanted to
Okay.
bring that to your attention.
Okay, thank you.
And just to make things easier, Chief Tazi has been provided the budget, and then when he comes officially over for the transition, he and I will sit down and go over this further, so if he has any questions, since he'll be taking over about halfway through the year.
Now, just because we're adding 2 positions, is that correct?
We did hire 2 firefighters, thanks to the administration, so we're up to 135 firefighters that are sworn.
Chief, you had mentioned in your opening report about the revenue not being possibly as high as it might end up being. What line item was that for the inspections?
Is that in the-
Is that?
I think it's in the, wouldn't it be in the binder?
Yeah, I didn't even see where that was.
I would
coming
defer to
from. Where-
Mr. Calderon on that, where you would find that in the budget.
Maybe under 4, revenue breakdown? Oh, fire protection revenues, that's on the second page there, right, Pat?
Yep. Supposed to be 600, we only got 560,000, 60.
Chief, what are we anticipating in fire protection revenues? Did you say 524,000? That's the anticipated revenues that we're,
Is that correct? Sounds right.
Yeah, that sounds.
because I thought you mentioned, I wrote down 524,000, but maybe that was another category.
Off the top of my head,
I think it's gotta be.
I'd have to find exactly which one I'm looking at. Yeah. I believe it's in my binder in the back. I could get it for you. I just wanted to make sure that you understood that there was going to be a reduction based on the way the division's doing things because of COVID. It's just odd when you see a revenue line change when you know the town's expanding and you're doing more work. That was why.
So, and what we have in the budget document is based on really what we collected last year. So you're allowed to anticipate an amount up to what you collected last year. So because, as John mentioned, we collected a little over 560,000 last year, we're anticipating 550,000 this year, which is down 50,000 from last year. So it may not match exactly what you've all
Okay.
identified in there, but it's just 2 different methods
Okay.
of anticipation.
Okay.
So.
And there's approximately $10,000 in unpaid fees from last year just for the local registration.
Okay.
Whether business is closed or just fair to pay.
And that's the category you were holding the 10% back?
That's different.
That's different?
That's different, yeah. That revenue line is where the state was talking, correct, Sal?
Correct.
Yeah.
And I think
Okay.
rebated from the state.
Okay.
So again, I didn't want you anticipating a revenue that potentially the state's even saying is questionable that it could happen, so. And the town's accounted for that properly, so.
Okay. Fair enough. Hmm.
Chief, just in the meantime, while we're waiting for this new ladder truck, if it's approved,
Yeah.
what is the status about our ladder trucks that we have this time?
So currently we run 3 aerial apparatus. We have 2 2016 aerials that were joint purchases under the districts. One is a 100-foot TDA, which is the tiller. The other one is a 95-foot mid-mount. Both are Pierce apparatus. The reserve apparatus that we have for them is a 2005 E1 95-foot aerial. It's a rear mount bucket. So it's the old truck 17. So if anybody's from the square, you'd be familiar with what that truck is. That truck, and no disrespect to the previous district, should have been replaced probably about 5 years ago. That truck is probably pushing over 100,000 miles right now. And we're at the point where, you know, the service life has been far exceeded. So we're doing the minimal repairs we need to keep it in service and safe, and hopeful that once this new truck comes in, Chief Tazi can evaluate the fleet plan and the operational needs of the department to determine, do we hold on to that 2005 because there's no benefit to selling it this time? It all depends on what the dynamics are, to understand and try and figure out where a truck's going to be in 2 years. It's not possible, but right now we have 3 aerials, and when they go out of service, we'll move personnel either to a rescue or to an engine.
Thank you. Yes, I can imagine the size of our township, we put a lot of miles.
42 square miles is very difficult. We have 2 apparatus at least that have over 100,000 miles on them. Now, we've remanded them to reserve positions. However, you could tell an aggressive fleet plan is definitely needed to maintain what we have.
Thank you.
Chief, no offense to you, I really dislike looking at your budget because it goes back only 1 year.
It is fantastic, and you know what, I had a great advisor on budget, John, and to his point, and this way, he said to me the other day when we were on our conference call, it takes about 3 years for you to get a good idea of where these spendings are going to be, which is what the concern was when we came into the municipality last year. Based on what I knew the districts actually spent on certain OE items versus where we were trying to be. And I was scared then. However, I think we got through it, a little grayer for it. But to those points, I think you're not going to have a true understanding of what the department's going to cost for at least another year, because this will be our first true year where we put a budget that wasn't provided by state input with that, so.
Chief, just one question on the telecommunications. I noticed that went up significantly from last year.
Sure, last year that was all paid for under the town's IT. This year, we inherited that bill.
Okay.
Fortunately, we pawned off the fire hydrants to Public Works. So we'll
Yes,
take
remember that
IT
last
over
week.
fire hydrants any day. So
Thank you.
I have this to memory. I didn't even have to look at the page. I knew exactly what you were going to ask.
Well, and they did it, that was a question that came up, like, why are the
Absolutely,
fire hydrants
legitimate.
under the Public Works?
Mhm.
Yep, we talked about it last week, so,
There was also a little bit of an adjustment on telecommunications under utilities
okay.
that was there.
I don't have any other questions. Councilman Barrett? Okay, this is very serious,
He's always serious.
Well, thank you, Chief, and
Thank
again,
you.
just to reiterate what everyone has said, thank you for your lifetime of service, and I've only known you for a few years as well, but it's such a great pleasure, and for all your hard work with consolidation, we appreciate it, and, please, don't be a stranger as well.
Thank you. Thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Okay, and at this time, we'll adjourn tonight's budget hearing. Thank you.
So we